Hello and welcome to the latest Insider interview. Our guest today is Thiemo Lang, manager of the Polar Capital Smart Energy Fund. Thiemo, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having invited me.
Smart Energy Fund, what is it and how are you investing?
So we are managing the Polar Capital Smart Energy Fund. It's a fund that is investing in the energy transition towards renewables energy, towards electrification, towards energy efficiency. And so we have a eligible universe of roughly 250 companies we are allowed to invest in.
And you are an engineer by background and then move into fund management.
Exactly.
You're investing in a highly technical space. So what advantages does your background give you as a fund manager?
Yeah, I have a technical background, as you're saying. And doing now a clean energy fund, for me it's actually a perfect combination to really add also my technical experience from the past into such a product. Because investing into clean energy is much more about investing in new technologies than investing in some sort of a new commodity, as it is the case with traditional energy funds.
And clean energy, what are the big themes are you investing in? And can you give some examples of stocks that fit those themes?
Yeah, so the big common denominator for our product is really the electrification trend. So we see now really moving entire industries towards electrification. A good example is the transportation sector, the automotive sector, but also heating of buildings or industrial processes, industrial applications, even fertilizer production in the end. They will all move towards electricity basically, and electricity supplied by carbon-free energy or electricity sources.
And what types of companies does this lead you to? Can you give us some examples of the stocks that you invest in?
Yeah, again, we invest over the whole value chain. So starting from the companies in the clean power generation sector. So these are companies from the solar wind industry. Then we have two investment clusters in the infrastructure build-out. So companies that invest in the build-out of the electrical grid, in the future also hydrogen networks. We have a cluster energy conversion and storage. We invest in power semiconductor companies, which we see as essential in the transformation towards electricity, and battery companies. And then we have the fourth cluster, energy efficiency, where we also cover the demand side of the equation. So this is actually the biggest cluster. And here we really address all the different end markets, being building efficiencies, automotive sector, or energy efficiency of big data. For example, the IT sector has also become a big issue for us.
And of the top 10 companies, there aren't many I recognize at all. I don't think many of our listeners will also recognize them. So can you give us some extra information about some of those most loved companies that you own?
Yeah, right now, actually, energy efficiency of big data has become a big issue for us, AI. So as we see now, really moving the graphic processors into applications where data processing is really accelerating. We see also the energy needs really doubling over the next years. And now new data centers are being built, and we have to do it efficiently, because otherwise the electricity consumption will just go through the roof. And we have done our own estimates here. We actually expect that AI-driven data centers will consume already in 2027 roughly 40 gigawatts of power, which is the entire, or which represents the entire electricity consumption of UK today. So it's huge.
And what types of companies are benefiting from this? And are they really expensive given the opportunities ahead?
I mean, we invest in, you can see it in our top 10. We have companies like Vertiv Holdings that are doing here basically the build-out of data centers, the thermal management, also the thermal cooling of chips like from NVIDIA. We have companies like Marvell, which are doing then the data processing or the optical interconnects. And so we have a few others here we are investing in.
Electric vehicles is one of the most exciting areas in this energy transition theme. It's very visible here in the UK. Why do you like that sector and how do you invest in it? And also, what about Tesla? That's the flagship name there. What do you think about that company?
Tesla, I've never heard about it. Yeah, no, I mean, the EV space now this year is probably a bit more quiet, I would say. Also new models from Tesla are missing, also from the other car manufacturers, the Western car manufacturer. We rather see it as a 2025 theme. Here we expect re-accelerating momentum. This year we might have maybe 25-30% growth still, but it's mostly driven by China, followed by the US. Europe will be bit more quiet. In the EV space, we invest predominantly in the supply chain. So semiconductor companies that are here essential to really optimize the drivetrain, to optimize the charging into the battery of the vehicle, etc. So here we have quite a lot of power semiconductor companies we are investing in.
And why is the supply chain a better place to invest in EVs than the actual car manufacturers themselves?
The barriers of entry are higher, so they have much better margins. Even if you look at Tesla, I mean, they are profitable. That's okay, but here you talk about gross margins of, I don't know, 15% or so. But if you look at the rest of the EV manufacturers, it's already difficult for them to be break-even right now. The semiconductor companies, they have 35-40% gross margins or even higher. And you are more diversified, right? Because if you invest in a company, an example is Infineon or Owensemi or Wolfspeed, I mean, they have tens of different clients, being the OEMs or the tier 1 supplier into the car OEMs. So you are much more diversified if you invest in them.
Rising input costs has been one of the themes about investing in industrial companies recently with all this inflation. And I think particularly wind turbine manufacturers have had a difficult time because of that. Is that a space you've invested in, wind turbines and maybe solar power as well?
We were completely out. Now we actually have limited exposure into companies like Vestas and Nordex. As you point out correctly, the wind industry was particularly hit by cost inflation. Offshore wind, you had bidding processes in UK where there was not a single bid because the companies could no longer match it. You had cost inflation of 30-50%. Fortunately, this is right now going back again. And therefore, going forward, we are more constructive that the price inflation we have seen in the wind industry is soon a story of the past again. In solar, it's already much better. So the solar prices are at a new all-time low, actually, already.
And of all the renewable power sources, which is the most exciting to invest in?
I'm a big fan of solar. I mean, we have to go the solar way. Even wind is okay if it's offshore because then nobody sees it. Onshore wind is also compromised, right? You have also resistance, then nobody wants to have a 5 megawatt wind turbine in his backyard. And therefore, solar is the way to go, and you can do it in a very decentralized manner on the rooftops or ground field, and you are extremely flexible.
And do you invest in solar panel manufacturers, or is it again a supply chain trade for your team?
Again, solar is also a good example of being actually very cautious in what you are actually investing in, because solar till today is a sector with pretty low barriers of entry. So even after 15 years of activities, the sector hasn't consolidated yet. The margins are pretty low. And sometimes you are in a situation where demand exceeds supply, and then you have this rising tide lifts all boats phenomenon. But over the long run, the solar industry still is also very much compromised in that the margin profile of the solar module manufacturers, etc., is not that interesting. So here again, we rather prefer to invest in companies that build out the electrical grid or supply electronics into inverters, etc., than to invest in the inverter companies themselves or in the solar module manufacturers themselves. And then in addition, maybe if I can add this here, it also has become a very political issue, notably in the US, when they have trade restrictions towards China, etc., which drives up then the module prices of imported modules. And here again, you have also to be very cautious in, if you invest in such companies, that you also understand the political risks that might be associated with them.
Thiemo, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for your interest. Yep.
And that's all we have time for today. You can check out more insider interviews on our YouTube channel, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.